Flavius Josephus was a Jewish scholar who was born not long after Jesus died. His life was connected to some of the most important events in both Jewish and Roman history. Among his many accounts, one stands out as particularly intriguing: his depiction of Jesus of Nazareth. What can we truly learn from the perspective of someone who lived so close to the era of Christ? Could his words offer a glimpse into the historical Jesus that both believers and skeptics seek? Josephus' insights reveal a figure who defied conventional expectations. In one of his writings, he described Jesus as a man of simple appearance, yet his words carried a unique authority that drew crowds. If you enjoy content that helps you grow spiritually, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and join our community for more inspiration. Let's get started. He wasn't a politician or a soldier, but he had a huge effect on the people around him. According to Josephus, Jesus spoke with the wisdom reminiscent of the ancient prophets, capturing the hearts of both the humble and the learned. This historian's account paints a vivid picture of the streets of Galilee, filled with individuals eager to hear Jesus' message. He noted the compelling stories of miraculous healings that surrounded Jesus' ministry: the blind seeing, the lame walking, and even the dead being brought back to life. Josephus' words convey the magnetic pull Jesus had on the masses, a figure both adored by common folk and scrutinized by religious authorities. Yet his observations also highlight the tension Jesus created. He openly challenged religious leaders, exposing their hypocrisies, and introduced radical teachings about a God who extended unconditional love and mercy. His proclamations of a heavenly kingdom brought both hope and controversy. While not professing personal belief, he acknowledges the undeniable effect Jesus had on his contemporaries. The historian's writings provide a bridge between history and faith, capturing the duality of Jesus' identity as seen through the eyes of those who lived in his time. Whether seen as a prophet, a teacher, or the Messiah, the image of Jesus through Josephus' lens is one of profound complexity, a man who reshaped the spiritual landscape of his era. The streets of Jerusalem were tense, yet filled with a strange energy as Jesus was brought before Pontius Pilate. Witnesses whispered of his calm demeanor, despite the mocking soldiers and the crowd's shouts. Those present described a moment that seemed to transcend the ordinary. A man, bruised and bloodied, yet possessing a serenity that disarmed even the most hardened observers. Pilate himself appeared torn, reluctant to sentence this man whose accusations of blasphemy and insurrection felt curiously hollow. His hesitation mirrored the tension felt by many. Could this man truly be guilty of such claims, or was he the bearer of something greater, something divine? We all face moments when life's challenges overwhelm us, leaving us searching for meaning and answers. When that happens, it can make all the difference to understand and be guided better. This is exactly what The Secret of Jesus' Apparitions offers: a path to clarity and peace through his revelations. This ebook goes into his prophecies and offers insight into what lies ahead. It's available for free in the pinned comment. Grab it now before the edition's gone. The crucifixion site, a barren hill outside the city, became a gathering place for both mourners and the curious. Accounts speak of the eerie silence that fell as darkness descended midday, an occurrence that left even the executioners unsettled. It is said that the veil of the temple was torn, though interpretations of the event varied widely. For some, it was a divine sign. For others, mere coincidence. Days later, rumors spread like wildfire. The tomb, heavily guarded and sealed, was found empty. Reports surfaced of encounters with Jesus. Disciples claimed to have seen him alive, walking, eating, speaking. Skeptics dismissed these claims as grief-induced visions, yet the conviction in the eyes of those who shared their stories was difficult to ignore. These encounters ignited a movement that no force, not even Rome, could quash. In Rome, the ripples of these events reached even the imperial courts. Converts from all walks of life began spreading the teachings of Jesus, often at great personal cost. One striking story was of a merchant from Alexandria who, having heard of Jesus from travelers, abandoned his wealth to join the followers. Captured during a raid, he reportedly sang hymns in the arena as he faced wild beasts, leaving an indelible impression on the crowd. Years later, Flavius Josephus found himself back in Nazareth, a place that seemed frozen in simplicity despite the seismic shifts that its most famous son had inspired. Conversations with those who knew Jesus in his youth painted a picture of a boy who carried a quiet depth beyond his years. His mother, Miriam, spoke with a steady voice about her son, recounting a moment in the temple when he astonished the learned with his grasp of sacred texts. The movement that began with a single man continued to grow, driven by a faith that seemed unshakable. Whether viewed as divine or delusional, it was clear that the mark left by Jesus and his followers was one that no time or empire could erase. In the bustling streets of Jerusalem, the name Santiago resonated as one of reverence and leadership among the Judeo-Christian community. Known for his unwavering devotion and integrity, his demeanor was a blend of humility and quiet authority. His conversations about Jesus revealed layers of complexity, especially the struggles their family endured in understanding Jesus' purpose. Santiago recounted moments of confusion, where the teachings and actions of his brother felt almost incomprehensible. But that changed after an encounter that he described with profound emotion. Meeting the risen Jesus, a moment that transformed doubt into unshakable faith. As you think about these important events, don't forget that the guide who could help you understand them better is now available. Get your free ebook right now, because there are only a few left. In Galilee, Maria Magdalena's story stood out for its intensity. When speaking of her first sight of the empty tomb, she described it as a mixture of awe and disbelief. The memories of Jesus, she said, weren't merely about his teachings, but the way he restored dignity to those who had been discarded. Her voice cracked as she recounted her first encounter with the resurrected Christ, calling it a moment that reignited her soul. She believed her life before meeting him had been aimless, but his presence gave her direction and a renewed sense of purpose. Her devotion was unyielding, even in the face of ridicule and danger. Journeying further, the simplicity of Jesus' early disciples was both striking and inspiring. Simon Peter, with his rough hands and weathered face, carried an energy that seemed contagious. He recalled the moment Jesus called him to leave his nets, saying it felt like stepping into the unknown, yet being led by certainty. As he recounted walking on water, his eyes lit with an almost childlike wonder, though he admitted the fear that caused him to falter. The miracles he described, loaves and fish feeding multitudes, healings that defied logic, were shared with an honesty that made it impossible to doubt his sincerity. John, quieter but deeply reflective, spoke of moments that stayed etched in his heart. His account of the Last Supper was vivid, marked by the weight of an impending betrayal. His words painted the room heavy with tension, a mix of loyalty and fear among those present. When he spoke of the crucifixion, his voice quivered, calling it not just a moment of loss, but a fracture in their very being. The darkness that covered the skies mirrored the despair they carried, a wound that seemed impossible to heal. The tension in Jerusalem remained palpable, even years after the crucifixion. Caiaphas, stern and unyielding, defended his role in the trial. To him, Jesus was a destabilizing figure, and his death was an unfortunate necessity. Yet, his justification felt hollow when contrasted with the stories of the people who had seen Jesus heal, teach, and comfort the afflicted. At Golgotha, the atmosphere lingered heavy with the memories of that fateful day. A Roman centurion, known among his peers as Longinus, shared his recollections in hushed tones. His words carried the weight of a man wrestling with an experience beyond his comprehension. He talked about the time Jesus said sorry to the people who were killing him, which was such an unusual feeling in such a horrible place that it made many people, including himself, very uncomfortable. Longinus admitted to sensing a shift in the air, a moment when the earth seemed to hold its breath. His voice faltered as he recalled the darkness that cloaked the land and the trembling ground beneath their feet. If these stories stir your heart, remember, the opportunity to explore them further is at your fingertips. Claim your free ebook now, while copies are still available. In the shadows of Rome, the Christian gatherings spoke of a community unlike any other. Their secret assemblies was observed where they recounted stories of a resurrected Jesus with unwavering conviction. Their hymns, though soft to avoid detection, resonated with a profound hope. Among them was Lydia, a former slave who had joined their ranks after hearing about Jesus from traveling merchants. She shared how these teachings gave her a sense of worth and freedom that no chains could restrain. These gatherings often ended abruptly, with attendees dispersing swiftly to avoid Roman patrols. Yet, despite the dangers, their numbers grew. A young man named Marcus confided that the words of Jesus offered clarity amidst chaos, teaching him to value mercy over vengeance and humility over pride. His family, once indifferent to his faith, now viewed his transformation with a mix of awe and apprehension. The resilience of these followers puzzled many, myself included. While the empire sought to crush them, their belief seemed to thrive on adversity, igniting a flame that no edict or sword could extinguish. Their quiet defiance was a testimony not only to their courage, but to the enduring impact of a man whose death could not silence his legacy. The teachings of Jesus spread rapidly across the Roman Empire, carried by disciples and early converts who traveled along established trade routes and bustling cities. Port towns like Corinth and Ephesus became hubs for this burgeoning faith, where the message of salvation found a receptive audience. The use of Greek and Latin allowed these teachings to transcend linguistic barriers, making them accessible to a diverse population. In these early communities, worship took on a unique character, distinct from the public ceremonies of Roman religious life. Believers gathered in private homes, a necessity both for their safety and the intimacy it fostered. They shared bread and wine in remembrance of Jesus' sacrifice, a practice rooted in his words during the Last Supper. "Do this in remembrance of me." Luke 22:19. These gatherings also became a space to recite and pass on oral traditions, ensuring the message of Jesus remained alive even before the New Testament was formally written. Symbols played an essential role in the early Christian identity. The ichthys, or fish symbol, became a discreet way for believers to recognize one another. This emblem, derived from the Greek acronym for Jesus Christ, Son of God, Saviour, was often etched onto walls or drawn in the dirt during covert meetings. It served as a quiet declaration of faith in a world where public allegiance to Christianity could mean persecution. The refusal of Christians to participate in Roman cults or emperor worship drew suspicion and hostility. Many Romans viewed this new sect as atheistic for rejecting the pantheon of gods and as subversive for their allegiance to a kingdom not of this world. This tension culminated in the first documented persecutions under Emperor Nero, who scapegoated Christians for the Great Fire of Rome in 64 AD. Despite such brutality, the response of Christians was striking. Their willingness to face death with unwavering conviction, often quoting words like, "Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven," Matthew 5:10, left a profound impression on those who witnessed their resolve. Moments like these invite reflection and clarity. Don't miss your chance to uncover more. Download your free ebook today before it's too late. These early years of the Christian movement laid the groundwork for a faith that would continue to grow, strengthened by its trials and sustained by a message that transcended cultural and social divisions. As Christianity expanded, its inclusivity stood in sharp contrast to the rigid social structures of the Roman world. Women, often marginalized in public and religious life, found an unprecedented role within this new faith. Figures like Lydia, a merchant of purple cloth, became pivotal in establishing and supporting early Christian communities. Paul of Tarsus, in his letter to the Galatians, emphasized the equality of believers, declaring, "There is neither Jew nor Greek, slave nor free, male and female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus." Galatians 3:28. Such ideas challenged the deeply ingrained hierarchies of the empire, drawing people from every walk of life to the teachings of Jesus. Beyond gender, the Christian message resonated powerfully among slaves and the impoverished. Many found solace in its promise of a spiritual liberation that transcended their earthly circumstances. The emphasis on the dignity of every individual, exemplified in teachings like, "Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me," Matthew 25:40, offered hope in a world where they were often disregarded. This radical inclusivity further solidified the movement as a force that could unite people across societal divides. While Christianity spread, it was not without internal struggles. Early doctrinal debates arose as communities sought to reconcile Jesus' teachings with their own traditions. Jewish Christians, who continued to observe the Mosaic law, often found themselves at odds with Gentile converts who did not share these customs. The Council of Jerusalem, a pivotal moment in the history of the faith, sought to address these tensions. Leaders like Peter and James debated the necessity of circumcision and dietary laws for non-Jewish believers, ultimately concluding that salvation came through grace and faith rather than adherence to the law. If this message makes you think and you feel it connects with you, don't forget to like it, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Also, if you really want to support our work and help us keep creating valuable content, consider giving us a super thanks. Join this amazing community and don't miss any news. Simultaneously, the growing Christian presence began to influence the broader cultural landscape of the empire. Acts of charity became hallmarks of the faith, with communities caring for widows, orphans, and the sick in ways that set them apart from other groups. The idea of loving one's enemies, as Jesus taught in "Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you," Matthew 5:44, presented a profound challenge to the prevailing ethos of vengeance and honor. Through its inclusive message and transformative practices, Christianity began reshaping societal norms, forging a path that would eventually challenge even the might of Rome itself.